So I just wanted to start this out by saying I might sound a little bit weird today. I've been sick all week. I've had the runny nose and I'm kind of losing my voice. Just been kind of feeling under the weather. So what are you saying? You're not going to be able to dive into TWR this week? No, I never said that. Well, you kind of have a lot to talk about. Well, I know. I might sound a little bit off or a little bit funky. I just didn't want. Well, if you don't do it, who's going to talk about the new console that's supposed to be coming out this year? Yeah, I know we're going to talk about that. There's just the fact that the GTA price might be a little bit higher than everyone is thinking. Yeah, we saw rumors and leaks about that, and we'll get to that, I guess. Or the fact that some zombies maps may be coming out next year that are out of this world, quite literally in space. Not just out of this world, but at different time periods as well. You are right, Inner Monologue. There is so much to talk about this week, and that is why we created this show to begin with. And if you don't know what this show is, that's of course because this show is the Weekly Reload. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to TWR, your weekly gaming news show where we dive into everything gaming with a little bit of an emphasis on first-person shooters and Call of Duty. But first, we're diving into the owners of Call of Duty, which is, of course, Xbox or Microsoft. They introduced a new thing, which is, of course, today's day and age, AI. Basically, they have this thing called Copilot, and now they're introducing it to gaming. Essentially an AI that you can ask questions to about your games that'll give you answers and help you maybe be able to build something correctly in Minecraft, the kind of things that you would look up on a Wikipedia page while you're playing the game.
Okay, this is my first time playing Minecraft. What should I do first?
Start by punching a tree to collect wood.
Okay, I've got some tree wood. What do I do with that?
Craft the oak logs into wooden planks by opening your inventory and placing the logs in the crafting area.
Now, I don't know why, but I find this AI incredibly creepy, just at talking to you and everything. I don't know if I'm alone on that one, but that's just how it feels to me. Now, of course, there's concerns with people using it to hack games and things along those lines, and I don't really know how I see this affecting the future with like game tutorials and walkthroughs and things along those lines, but needless to say, AI, it's coming in absolutely everywhere. Speaking of the future of video games, Xbox had some pretty big leaks come out this week. Essentially two leaks. First off, the fact that it looks like we are going to be getting some sort of Xbox handheld coming out this year, and then not until 2027 we will be getting a new Xbox console. Now, we've talked about it before that Call of Duty 2026 or Modern Warfare 4 may very well be developed for that console that is coming out in 2027. But needless to say, based off of the rumors, both the handheld console and the new console for your TV that you hook it up to that are apparently both going to be running off of Windows software. The reason for this, if it's easy for developers to develop for Windows, if they can develop just as easy for their handheld console and the regular console, it'll make it so that developers are more easily able to port their games onto the consoles, which I think is actually a very, very smart idea, but only time will tell how that will actually play out. Speaking of things that didn't quite play out the way people wanted to, Spectre Divide, the game that Shroud created, recently got ported to consoles. However, just a couple weeks after that, it was announced that Spectre Divide is being shut down. And anytime you hear this, it's never a good thing, especially in the first-person shooter genre. We want as many good first-person shooters as possible, because the more good shooters are out there and that are made, the higher the bar will actually rise as to the quality that the games that must be created. Especially when it comes to these kind of live service games, it seems like everyone is swinging for the fences and pretty much everyone is falling short, which is never good to see. But something that I do not think will fall short is the Oblivion Remastered. Now, if you haven't heard about this, Elder Scrolls 4 is one of my favorite games of all time, and recently leaks have come out as of this week that say it might be closer than you think. You see, there's been rumors about an Elder Scrolls 4 remaster for quite some time. In fact, there are also rumors about a Fallout 3 remaster going around as well. Now, with these rumors, we had no idea when this was coming. The last thing we heard from Elder Scrolls was that they were working on Elder Scrolls 6 and that it's coming down the line. But lo and behold, they have been holding on to the Elder Scrolls 4 remastered, and based off of the leaks that came out this week, it apparently will launch just weeks or at the most a month after it is actually announced. And based off of these leaks, people are saying April might be the announcement, with the game either coming out the same month or at the very latest in June. So we might be playing an Elder Scrolls Remastered, which, by the way, has apparently been developed on the Unreal 5 engine, which should be leaps and bounds better than the older game. It's a super interesting thing, and will be interesting to see when it comes out. How quickly is it going to get shadow dropped? Something that will not get shadow dropped, though, is the GTA 6. But what might get shadow dropped is the price of it. You see, as of this week, there was an article that came out about the price of the game. Why, you may ask? Well, on a retailer, specifically a Swiss retailer by the name of Brack, it comes in at 99 CHF, which essentially translates to 112 US dollars. Now, prior to this, there were rumors that GTA 6 was indeed going to cost well more than your normal $60 or $70 game. Now, since then, people have come back and said, no, this is crazy. Rockstar, yeah, they may have different types of the games with different price points on it, but it's not going to be a base price of something near $100 plus. But based off of this Brack leak, it appears as though maybe in certain countries it might be more than that. But keep in mind, at this point, there is no confirmation of that whatsoever. There's no confirmation when we'll be getting the next trailer, release date. If it's this year, just the only thing we know is the Take-Two CEO said, yes, it's still on track for this fall. When this fall, we have no idea. Price, we have no idea. So just take what you see with a grain of salt. Something we do know the release date on is when we get to the Call of Duty segment of the week, which is Verdansk. Now, as far as Verdansk goes, we got the trailer this week, and the trailer, I will say, does look pretty good. And unlike recent Call of Duty trailers, it's not filled with various microtransactions, ridiculous skins. It is down to earth, and it is purely pulling on your nostalgia strings, as by the very end of the trailer, you see the main Ranger's character quite literally crying as he looks onto Verdansk. Now, as I mentioned in a video earlier this week, we do not know when this is taking place, how this is taking place, the story behind it whatsoever, or if they're even going to put any story behind it. But based off of the leaks that have come out this week, apparently season after season, we are going to be getting similar updates to Verdansk, just like we had in previous games. So for example, Warzone 2020 came out with your base Verdansk, and then over time, the roof of the stadium blew off, and then the interior of the stadium opened up. After that, the trains turned on, and you could take the trains around the map. Apparently, they're going to be doing things like that season after season, like we saw in the past. Now, as far as what happened this week in Call of Duty, we got the Clover Craze event, where typically your goal is to run around and pick up clovers. It's a pretty boring event, if I'm being honest, and if you were wondering, I found the fastest way to do this was simply go in multiplayer. Zombies seems to be nerfed, and I was basically getting nothing out of Warzone. So yeah, just get kills in multiplayer, pick up some clovers, and that's pretty much that. Now, as of this weekend, we got a new zombies leak, and it is for Call of Duty 2025, which is set to be the Black Ops 2 sequel. And as what the report is, it appears as though they are going wild with the potential locations of these maps, one of which is a World War II New York, where the Germans dropped a nuclear bomb. Another is being described as set in a Japanese temple on the foot of an erupting volcano. Another one set in Vietnam, when in Afghanistan. Another idea out there is being in space station in the dark ether. So in outer space, in the dark ether. Also, another map that has a similar transportation style as the transit system, which is set to be the biggest zombies map ever made. So yeah, we've been treated pretty well this year with round-based zombies. Apparently next year, it's getting even more wild, according to leaks at least. Now, if you are getting sick of Call of Duty or you're waiting for Verdansk, one thing that did get announced this week was the Finals Season 6. Based off of the short teasers that we got, it essentially looks more like the Finals, your typical arcade in a simulation style shooter. But honestly, I really do enjoy this game, and if you haven't checked out the Finals, it's free to play, and hey, it's coming out on the 20th when Season 3 of Warzone and Black Ops 6 was supposed to come out. Now, speaking of things that were announced this week, check this out.
You, sir, are an unrepentant criminal, guilty of illegally entering our country on multiple occasions.
The only thing that I'm guilty of is doing your dirty work.
And by way of compensation, we have overlooked your crimes.
Bring it on, because I'm not doing this shit anymore.
What makes you think you have a choice?
June 26th. June 26th is when Death Stranding 2 is actually going to be coming out. And it seems like more than ever this year, companies are either in a scramble to delay games away from the launch of GTA 6 or get their games out before GTA 6 comes out. And Death Stranding 2, coming essentially at the beginning of the summer on June 26, is exactly that. And I must say, narratively, I did not play Death Stranding 1. I plan on playing it before the new one comes out. But based off of what we're seeing, the amount of characters, the cutscenes that are going to be in there, this one is going to be not just a delivery simulator, but also a pretty good story. Now, speaking of stories, or not so much stories, the next thing that we have is Silent Hill F. Silent Hill F. It looks scary as hell, and the one thing that I don't know is if this game is coming out purely in Japanese with subtitles, or if they're going to be putting out an English version of this as well. At this point, I don't know, but as you can tell, this is taking place, I believe it's in 1960s Japan. In other words, before the original Silent Hill events. So essentially, this is the first game in the Silent Hill series, at least chronologically. Now, the interesting thing about this one is they didn't tell us, or they didn't show us any gameplay. And on top of that, they also didn't really tell us when this one was going to come out. I'm guessing based on the cutscene, it's still pretty early in development, but it looks like Konami is really trying to cook with the Silent Hill franchise once again. Speaking of something that's trying to come back once again, we have Rainbow Six Siege. If you didn't see, they had a pretty big announcement this week, which was Siege X. Their 10-year anniversary marked their big update, an update that they have apparently been working on for 3+ years, with updates to the visuals, gameplay, audio, and everything in between. This is set to be their next big thing, and the thing that's supposed to carry Rainbow Six Siege for the next 10 years. They also announced a new mode called Dual Front, and what this one is essentially a respawn Rainbow Six Siege game mode where you still pick your operators, there's still strategy behind it, but you can respawn. It's an interesting idea for the game. However, Siege has tried respawn modes in the past and they've never really taken off. That being said, though, the improved visuals, the improved audio, and on top of that, certain gameplay mechanics like the grappling ability, being able to swing across roofs, switch directions that weren't there before, are definitely welcome improvements to Rainbow Six. Now, the one game that came out this week is WWE 2K25, and to my surprise, it actually has pretty decent reviews on OpenCritic. As of right now, it's sitting at about an 82%, and that's pretty impressive for a sports game that is filled with microtransactions. But they have implemented new gameplay, new mechanics, as well as a new online system as well, which basically you go to a wrestling island, which I thought was a pretty cool idea. Now, speaking of microtransactions, we talked last week about how the CEO of It Takes Two, as well as Split Fiction, kind of was talking about how he would never have microtransaction in his game because when you put them in the game, you're basically building the entire game around microtransactions. Well, a game that is already doing that, which is not even out, is apparently Skate 4. Based off of leaks, people have been playtesting the game, and already within the playtest, they are building out microtransactions, which, if you ask me, is not a good sign for that game whatsoever. Something that needs a good sign is the game that is coming out this week. On the 20th, we are getting Assassin's Creed Shadows. Now, I may or may not have got my hands on a review code for this game, and we're going to be having some early gameplay and a review going up on the second channel, Ink TV, which is linked down below, later this week, or technically next week, but you know what I'm saying. It's going to be coming out before the game actually launches. So if you want a better look at what is going to be going on with this game, what are my opinions on it, anything like that, make sure you're subscribed over there. We have like 2 videos a day go up over there, so be sure to check it out. Now, as far as Assassin's Creed Shadows and Ubisoft, this game needs to do well. This is kind of Ubisoft's last-ditch effort. They need a game to take off, and with a game like Assassin's Creed Valhalla that previously sold 20 million copies, if this isn't their golden goose, I don't know what is going to be. And on top of that, news came out today that Ubisoft is already looking for investors. Apparently this month, they are shopping around for a minority stakeholder in their company, with companies like Tencent Games and some other French companies being their first on their sheet. Now, with this being a minority ask, I don't know whether or not there's going to be companies that want to do this because of how poorly the management has gone at Ubisoft. I'm guessing if a company wants to buy it, they are most likely going to want the majority stake, and I don't know if Ubisoft is willing to do that yet. I'm guessing they're gonna probably wait to see how Assassin's Creed does and then kind of take it from there. But as we know, Ubisoft is certainly in trouble. Ladies and gentlemen, that has been the weekly reload. As per usual, if you enjoy this series, I really appreciate it when you hit the like buttons on this one or share it with your friends. It's very different than everything else we do on this channel, whether that be story, Call of Duty deep dives, or anything in between. So if you're a fan of the weekly reload, please subscribe, please turn on notifications, because guess what? There's going to be another episode next Sunday.